Suspended executives of Landowner organization cry foul. Police uncover counterfeit manufacturing hideout in Port Moresby. And relatives attack health officer after patient dies.
This is National MTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Saturday's news. The suspended executives of the Lihir Mining Area Landowners Association in New Ireland Province have claimed that they have been reinstated by the court. The executives were seeking community representatives in the court-reinstated LMALA board to fulfill the requirements for an annual general meeting planned for an unspecified time. However, their visit to Londolovit saw other landowners demanding documents of the court decision and claim there is infighting between members of the organization.
Sebastian Yanasa was leading an awareness group around communities on Lihir Island, claiming the innocent and executives must perform the role. However, Yanasa and his group were questioned by landowners at Londolovit.
Association, 20 years without no benefit. Now we still stand on our behalf. Boram and until and unless we play creating one
there is also another party to the organization. These executives were suspended by the Investment Promotion Authority on June 19, 2017, allegedly for mismanagement and tax evasion following a 2015 business audit report. But the group claimed innocent to allegations through a court decision.
Law, Association Act, LMALA crossing LMALA. When I'm law, I'm best of something. LMALA no go wrong, association no go wrong. I will talk about them, but talk really straight. Or book man step inside LMALA supposed to straight immediately sensible association staff.
Meanwhile, there is much anxiety among landowner groups under the 14 tenements of the Lihir project. For the Londolovit landowners, they want the in-house fighting to stop so people receive benefits of the mining project.
Because looking also we got separation yet. I got still this like fighting by establishment. Yep.
Meanwhile, landowners have accused Newcrest of taking advantage of the situation and have bulldozed its new proposed terms and agreements using the Lihir agreement review process, which is ongoing.
Now, lawyer, and me advise him, go on. Sing out to AGM.
Theckla Junior, National MTV News.
All Moresby leaders met with Prime Minister Peter O'Neill this week to discuss issues relating to the recently signed Memorandum of Understanding for the upcoming Wafi Golpu project. The Prime Minister said the MOU was established to give confidence to the developer to progress the project ahead of further consultation with all stakeholders. Prime Minister O'Neill says the MOU sets out some high-level understanding regarding fiscal terms and benefit sharing. He says this MOU is different from the one with landowners. The Prime Minister says views and grievances raised by customary landowners will be addressed through consultation through the Development Forum process. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has welcomed the new Malaysian High Commissioner to Papua New Guinea, Mohammed Nasri Abdul Rahman. Mid this week, the Prime Minister hosted Mr. Rahman at his office in Parliament. Upon receiving his guest, the Prime Minister acknowledged the strong bond between Papua New Guinea and Malaysia. He says both countries have similar global policies and will continue to work together under organizations such as the United Nations and APEC. Agriculture is one sector Papua New Guinea and Malaysia eye to improve capacity building and trade. Police have made a shocking discovery where Chinese nationals were found manufacturing counterfeit cigarettes in Port Moresby. But what is more shocking is the items used in the production of these illegal cigarettes came into the country without being declared by PNG Customs. Police believe the manufacturing and repackaging of illegal cigarettes have been going on for months.
A tip-off and weeks of surveillance has led police right to the heart of the illegal production of counterfeit cigarettes. Located at 8 Mile Kennedy Estate, inside one of the rooms, supposedly rented out as an office space, was turned into a manufacturing hub for illegal cigarettes.
Waiting for them to come.
Sergeant Thomas Moyeng is the case officer who led the police raid and made the shocking discovery.
seized by the National Drug and Vice Squad with the assistance of the mobile squad, which was done yesterday upon a search warrant which was executed by us. And we came across this product and the machines that you have seen this afternoon.
Inside the first room, it looks clear, just like an open storeroom. But it is the second and third rooms where the manufacturing, repackaging and labeling takes place. Once these illegal cigarettes are packed, they are placed inside cartons with different labels and sold to buyers throughout the country. This is a package ready for a buyer in Kavieng, New Island Province, and police have seized all these items. However, no arrests were made as yet.
Charges, it matters to various agencies. That's why their agencies are here. So it includes customs, migrations, IRC, IPA, health, for that matter, and narcotic bureau.
The production of these illegal items breaches a number of laws in the country. These include labor laws, health standards, and it is a criminal act. It is also seen as a way of evading taxes. In Papua New Guinea, the licensed cigarette regulator is British American Tobacco. But there are cases where cigarettes from other countries are sold in PNG, especially those from Indonesia.
It's very sad to begin with. We don't know what type of substances are put into those cigarettes. To begin with, our Papua New Guineans are taking it into their bodies without proper regulation, so on and so forth. The concern of the Narcotics Bureau on behalf of the National Narcotics Control Board and our respective legislation is on illicit substances and controlled substances. So tomorrow we will have the health department come. They will verify the contents of each cigarette, and then when we find out if there's illicit substances or any form of controlled substances in, then we will advise the appropriate authorities in terms of the investigations, eventual prosecution, so on and so forth.
Theckla, National EMTV News.
A senior health officer at the Boram General Hospital in Wewak was attacked by relatives of a patient yesterday. The health officer suffered knife wounds to his head and different parts of his body. Police in Wewak say the patient, a little boy who twisted his neck while playing, died at the hospital after receiving initial treatment. Relatives of the deceased then stormed the hospital, attacked the health officers and damaged properties inside the hospital. This morning, a team of police officers raided and burnt down several homes belonging to the suspects. A formal complaint has been laid with police, but the suspects have gone into hiding. Police have sent reinforcements to Alatau in attempts to track down Tommy Baker and his gang of criminals. This comes 48 hours after Baker and his gang shot and killed a lawyer, burned down 8 police houses and took off with an ATM machine loaded with cash. Baker and his gang took these actions after police burned down a family home belonging to the parents of one of the criminals.
Police thought it was a good idea to destroy the family home of a wanted criminal, but did not expect a retaliation of such magnitude. 8 police houses were burnt down to the ground, and there are reports that 2 lives were lost in the fire. The provincial legal officer, Martin Effie, was shot and killed in the gun battle that lasted for at least 3 hours. Though businesses and shops in Alatau have reopened following a day of closure, the provincial police commander, George Bayagau, has warned the public to be cautious when moving around. In an earlier interview with the police commissioner in Port Moresby, the lack of police boats was identified as a challenge police in Alatau are facing as they try to track down Baker. But while the hunt for Baker goes ahead with the additional manpower support from Port Moresby, the families of the 8 police officers, including the parents of one of the wanted criminal, remain homeless. Theckla, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News this Saturday. We'll be back with more of the day stories after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National MTV News. Former PNG Defence Force officer Major Poaseo Kisokao has been charged for fraud by the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate. He was interviewed by detectives in relation to allegations of misappropriating funds totaling 1.2 million kina, money belonging to the Defence Force Commercial Support Program Trust account. Police say senior officers Kisokao and others transferred the funds to other accounts and later accessed these funds for their own use. He was charged with 106 counts of misappropriating and 1 count of money laundering. He is detained at the Boroko police station and will appear in court for mention next week. Following the National Disasters visit to flood-affected areas in the Central Province, the National Education Team is currently on ground conducting audits of school facilities in affected areas. With schools expected to start on Monday, it is still uncertain if schools in disaster zones that were heavily affected by bad weather will be able to resume classes.
With heavy flooding affecting nearly all districts in the Central Province, the Provincial Disaster Office has worked closely with communities in the area, providing relief support as well as medical services. Acting Provincial Administrator Peter Zimbakwa says education team is currently on the grounds conducting audits on school facilities.
The education team is doing the audit on the infrastructure, school infrastructure, and as well as for resumption, feasibility of the resumption given the disaster at end.
With government schools ready to start on Monday, it is still uncertain if schools in remote central provinces will resume, as many may have been affected by heavy flooding. Once the independent audit is complete, schools in Central Province affected by natural disasters should be informed whether or not to resume classes.
After their visits, they will make an independent report, on whether this school will require extension on school year calendar.
In the meantime, the central government and its partners are working closely to ensuring that services are delivered where it's due. Stakeholders and other organizations have been urged to work with the central government and its donors. Godwin Eki, National MTV News.
In 1999, Western Highlands Province effectively stopped the sale of alcohol and drinking in public places. 2 decades on, the law was reviewed by authorities. This week, Minister for Intergovernment Relations, Kevin Isifu, signed the liquor license law together with member for Mulbaya, Koi Trape, in Port Moresby.
Minister for Intergovernment Relations Kevin Isifu signed on the approval of liquor consumption for Western Highlands Province. Isifu says Western Highlands will now create its own liquor laws when it comes to selling and consumption of liquor in the province.
I commend the Western Highlands Provincial Government for passing the law. So now we can go ahead with the signing so that it certified law so that it can be operated in the provinces, in Western Highlands provinces, so they can be able to regulate their own liquor license.
Secretary Dixon Goina alluded that liquor laws are important to control the sale and consumption of liquor in the province, as it will help also to boost revenue of the province.
In 2016, Western Highlands commenced work on the provincial liquor law, but this work was done in consultation with TPLJ. After rigorous vetting, the Western Highlands Assembly, chaired by the Honorable Governor Paswinti, and of which Mr. Honorable Koi Trape is a member, successfully passed the liquor licensing law on the 5th of November 2018.
Goina says with the laws now passed onto the provinces, the responsibilities are now on the hands of the Western Highlands and its people to carry out the functions of law. He says while social issues are very much associated to liquor, especially in PNG, tougher laws will not only steady the flow of liquor, but also maintain many of the country's social issues that are faced in communities.
It is effective now.
Local member for Mulbaya, Koi Trape, says black markets will not be tolerated and people will be asked to drink in designated areas, such as clubs and hotels.
To the people of Western Highlands, you can drink the beer in a proper place, in the hotel or proper club or proper setup. and not in the black market. So we want to enforce this, and that is why we are pushing that to become a.
Godwin Eki, National MTV News.
The Leitana Nehan Women's Development Agency's Human Resource Development Center was officially opened in Buka earlier this week. The project was a tripartite collaboration between the embassies of Japan, the United States and the New Zealand High Commission. Officiating at the ceremony was President of the Autonomous Region of Bougainville, Chief John Momis, and Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of Japan in PNG, Hiroshi Nawata.
On Tuesday, Leitana Nehan's Human Resource Development Center in Buka was declared open, a tripartite partnership where the Embassy of Japan funded the construction of the center, while the U.S. Embassy provides support for the organization's activities, and New Zealand High Commission contributed some equipment. The center, with 10 officers and over 2,000 users, provides counseling to victims of the Bougainville crisis, victims of gender-based violence, and training on gender and human rights issues. With the completion of the project, the agency now has a facility to conduct their activities in a safe and secure environment. Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of Japan in PNG, Hiroshi Nawata, said the center accommodates rooms for counseling, training, and a safe house. He is confident that the organization will make the best use of these facilities. The grant amount was over 200,000 kina, with the shortfall amount covered by the support of Volunteer Service Abroad, New Zealand. Lilian Sopera Kenea, National MTV News.
More roads will be built and improved for Maprik district in East Sepik province. Maprik MP John Simon says road plays a critical role in bringing services to rural communities. He says roads are one of the top priority sectors in the 2019 development plan.
Maprik district is accessible by road and air. However, the mass population travels by land to access education, health and other services. MP John Simon says in 2019, the district wants to open and maintain road access.
As member, I put in a lot of money into roads, and over the last few years, I did other things. So this year we have decided to put a lot of money back into the roads to make sure we give accessibility. We have written letters. We are looking for funding to build economic corridor roads in Maprik district.
Current road conditions in Maprik are not to standard. Work has progressed for some roads in the district in the past 6 months. With Maprik district boasting a strong agriculture sector, vanilla and cocoa farmers will depend entirely on road conditions to market the produce.
We will make sure we will straighten over the LG road, all district roads, lo acceptable condition where we can stop more 5 layers. We don't like play la walk la road. So this layer I'm by looking close to 50% the DSIP, but we put him down la walk la road as well.
Other districts in both East and West Sepik also use roads in Maprik district. The MP believes building better roads will have a positive impact on people's life and improve living standards.
I need to build the economic roads. That is the economic corridor roads. And economic activities is one of the major things. And roads, I believe in giving better roads. Because the people, obviously, there's a saying that they say every time. They say, give us road and forget about us.
More than a quarter of this year's budget will be prioritized to roadworks for Maprik district in 2019. Jack Lopava Jr., National MTV News.
Meanwhile, Maprik MP John Simon says the government should consider a policy to alter trade opportunities with aid. MP Simon says if a country can trade resources rather than receiving aid, poverty can be alleviated. He says this has been proven in most developing nations, of whom most are in the Asia-Pacific region. The Maprik MP said the country should not rely on aid from donors, but create policies where donor partners become trading partners.
Some of this aid should be converted to trade, to assist us in trade. Only then. Because trade will assist or will assist in poverty. It has proven. It has proven that through trade we will reduce poverty. So we need to convert some of this aid into trade. And this is what the government should do.
You're watching National MTV News. We go for a break. When we come back, we take a look at stories making headlines overseas. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, the 35-day U.S. government shutdown ended abruptly on Friday when President Trump dropped his demand for border wall funding. Instead, he signed legislation reopening federal agencies for 3 weeks while Congress debates border security.
To announce today that we have reached a deal to end the shutdown and reopen the federal government.
President Trump backing off his 35-day standoff with Democrats today, announcing a deal to reopen the government temporarily.
In a short while, I will sign a bill to open our government for 3 weeks until February 15th.
The president's endorsement in the Rose Garden paving the way for Congress to pass spending bills that would reopen the government for 3 weeks. But the deal is seen as a cave to Democrats, who the president has failed to force to pay for his border wall once again.
I am asking Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to put this proposal on the floor immediately.
Trump implying if he can't come to an agreement with Democrats in the next 3 weeks, he'll invoke a national emergency and bypass Congress.
If we don't get a fair deal from Congress, the government will either shut down on February 15th again, or I will use the powers afforded to me under the laws and the Constitution of the United States to address this emergency.
The short-term spending bill only includes $1.3 billion for border security and no new funding for the wall, making it a remarkable come down for a president who declared for weeks he wouldn't waver, but today framed it as a win.
This is an opportunity for all parties to work together for the benefit of our whole beautiful, wonderful nation.
The presidential announcement coming after a White House official said air travel delays that rippled across the nation Friday played a major role in his decision, telling CNN this is getting worse and worse. He knows this has to end. And after members of the president's inner circle faced backlash for downplaying the financial hardship of the shutdown, Trump making a point to thank them today.
Many of you have suffered far greater than anyone but your families would know or understand.
Now the longest government shutdown in U.S. history didn't yield anything for the president. He didn't get any money for his border wall. He's frustrated Republicans on Capitol Hill. He didn't do his base any favors by caving to the Democrats on their demands today. And he even took a hit in the polls as it showed that most Americans held him responsible for the shutdown. There are two things to watch in the coming days. One is whether or not the president is going to try to move forward with those plans to deliver the State of the Union address as was scheduled to happen on Tuesday initially, and two, what his response will be to the overwhelmingly negative response so far from his hardline immigration base.
There's been a major development in the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. elections. The FBI has raided the home of Donald Trump's longtime advisor, Roger Stone. He's been charged with multiple offenses, including obstruction and lying under oath.
One of Donald Trump's oldest friends raided by the FBI, with Donald Trump's least favourite network there to film it. Stone soon appeared in court in handcuffs and shackles. He was indicted on 7 counts of lying about his role in the Trump campaign's use of Democratic emails hacked by WikiLeaks, allegedly with Russian help. The charges say that Stone referred to the Godfather movies about a mafia syndicate when he was trying to convince another witness to stay quiet.
I will plead not guilty to these charges. I will defeat them in court. I believe this is a politically motivated investigation.
Stone is famous as an attack dog for Republican leaders all the way back to Richard Nixon, and he referenced his former boss with a triumphant victory gesture.
Any error I made in my testimony would be both immaterial and without intent.
Stone may be smiling now, but the indictment could lead to serious jail time. Legal expert Mark Schimmel believes Robert Mueller's net is tightening on the president, and today is a turning point.
He's just coming. He's just this emotionless, he's just an assassin. He's coming for him. And Trump is acting like a scared little baby.
Donald Trump's team tried to distance the president from Roger Stone today, but his arrest brings the number of former campaign staff who've been charged by the Mueller inquiry to 6. Predictions are he won't be the last.
And Australia Day was celebrated today. Darwin, the capital city of the Northern Territory, launched its Australia Day celebrations this morning with the Oz Run. Runners and walkers took part in the race through the Central Business District despite an expected wet season downpour.
Day Oz Run 2019 has kicked off at the Darwin waterfront in true Territorian style.
2, 1.
The Oz Run is the Territory's largest running event, and this year organisers say it's attracted around 3,000 people. The rain held off as keen runners and walkers participated in a pre-dawn Zumba-inspired warm-up. I had a chat with some Territorians about what Australia Day means to them.
It's all about being together and celebrating the Australian Day. I mean, you can see that different multicultural, everyone is here and everyone is happy, everyone is proud of being in Australia.
Family, gathering, fun day, just like what we're doing now. Everyone's getting together and to have some fun, doing some outdoor activities. Yes.
The more keen runners were first off the mark. Then the walkers left the post for the race around the Darwin CBD. As the first from the pack came up to the finish line, the skies opened up.
Woo! I was behind by quite far, but I just tried my best and got in front.
In true Territorian spirit, the wet conditions haven't deterred runners from finishing the race.
And 16,000 people took the pledge, marking a 5-year high for the number of people becoming Australian citizens on Australia Day.
Throughout Australia, 16,000 people have taken part in 365 ceremonies to become Australian citizens. Here at Sydney Harbour, there's been a citizenship ceremony on a ship and one on the shore. At Campbell's Cove, with the backdrop of the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, 25 people from 14 countries pledged their loyalty to Australia. They've come from Iran, from Vietnam, from France, from Mexico, the Philippines, Turkey and Ghana.
The warmth today was exceptionally great. I think I'm so lucky to be part of such a group that has been honoured to be Australians today. And I think I'm very much motivated ever than before to contribute my very best to help make this country even better and stronger.
In all, Australia's newest citizens come from 146 nationalities. The top 5 countries include India, the United Kingdom, China, the Philippines and Sri Lanka.
And despite Australia Day celebrations, thousands marched across Sydney's Central Business District in protest to change the date for the celebrated day and make it more inclusive for Indigenous Australians.
What you can see behind me is some of the thousands of people who have filled Sydney's busiest streets protesting against Australia Day, as they believe it is an insensitive day to Indigenous Australians. As you can see, it has filled the street. It's filled with Aboriginal flags, placards and people chanting things like "always will be, always was Aboriginal land." Now, there is a huge diversity of views here amongst those protesting about what should happen to Australia Day. Some believe the date should be moved away from January 26th, while others want the date to be abolished entirely. Now, we spoke to some of the people protesting today about their views on the day.
Education and acknowledgement, it brings about social change, so it's just about awareness, creating awareness. People hearing our story, because we're still the only Commonwealth country that don't have a treaty or any, legal leg to stand on. We've got to keep making our noise, keep being proud and loud, until we get equality.
I'd like to see the date changed to a day that we could all celebrate and come together.
Now, all of these protesters have made their way from Hyde Park, where this event started with traditional dancing and speeches from community leaders. They've marched about 2 kilometres through the Sydney streets to Victoria Park, the Yabun Festival. Yabun Festival is, of course, one of the biggest celebrations of Indigenous culture held in Australia, and that is where all of these protesters are making their way to celebrate the survival of Indigenous Australians.
Yeah, with National MTV News, we go for a break. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with football. Soccer associations in the country who have not complied with certain guidelines of the Papua New Guinea Soccer Association will not be penalized. Instead, PNGFA aims to help associations out to improve on competitions. This statement was made by PNGFA. Phil Lisukina with the details.
Soccer in Papua New Guinea may have come back together under Papua New Guinea Football Association, but there are still a lot of things that need to be ironed out. The issue of governance keeps on popping up when the new president gives a speech, as it has been an issue for PNGFA.
When I got into office, I think the first thing that I wanted to do was to put governance in place.
FIFA, the World Soccer governing body, has come down hard on PNGFA on its governance issues, and President John Capinato is working hard to address them.
Now we have gone through the administration. That is in order a little bit. We are giving a report tomorrow back to FIFA. And then by next week, I'm going to have an ESCO meeting.
Governance at the association level, especially in complying with guidelines set by the PNGFA, has been lacking in some associations.
We've come back together, all the 18 members. Some of them have governance issues. So what we're going to do is identify those governance issues, whether they're compliance with their statutes or whether they're playing the competition or not. So we have a scorecard. So that's going to be agreed by the General Secretary of PNGFA. Once we have those items listed down, we agree to it, the scores approve it, then we go into the member association visit. And I'm going to make a presidential visit to the 18-member association and get governance in place.
But John Capinato says soccer in PNG has gotten out of a big struggle, and at this point the associations are not likely to be penalized, with PNGFA's main focus to be on helping these associations to improve on their shortfalls.
Right now we just like, hey listen, let's get on the line, currently. But as soon as the ESCO approves those committees such as Ethics Committee and Discipline Committee, which I'm going to set it up. Because I don't want somebody to go around and blaming each other and saying, oh, this happened. No. Once we have those, you are in line for referring to the Ethics Committee. Even the President, myself, I can be referred. So because we don't have that, we're just taking it easy,
Feli Sukina, National MTV Sports.
To Rugby League, the whole off-season competition played its round 10 matches today under the scorching Port Moresby heat. Tournament manager Emmanuel Tallon says the competition will see its final round next week before the top 8 teams go in battle for the winning spot.
Arriving to witness the fourth match between the 2-5 Dragons and Tokara Nest saw Dragons take charge in the first half. With great defence and attack, Dragons scored 2 tries in the first half to bring their score to 8-0. In the second half, Dragons maintained their lead, but 10 minutes before the full-time whistle, Dragons managed to get through a loop to score their third, bringing the score to 14 points to Tokara Nest 0 at full-time. In the earlier matches, Panthers took on Tox Mixed Dogs, followed by Hornets taking on Mixed Mates, and Mutri's Brothers took on Tia Broncos.
Now we start around 10 blah. Next week around 11, and then we go top 8 playoff. So we play 22 man team and 6 female team.
Meanwhile, a new team that's been in the competition for nearly 2 decades was happy to show off its new jerseys.
Team Mutru start for some 20 years going up 30 now. So I want to play pioneer team last season since all seniors play come now. Amda la tok thank you lo sponsor Ranger Protection lo sponsor team pembla na honorable supporters pembla tu.
Yes, we sponsor him 8 mile rugby go call him 8 mile Simbu Hangras. And it Ranger Protection Limited. Now I'm second time lo sponsor him boys lo. Hola, Mutus brothers. Go look them now in rugby and come a big plan now. Lo Kim will young brothers where some play unemployed youths must go and sell rugby and I can find about it lo. Move forward go and sell or big games.
Hohola off-season rugby league competition will play its round 11 matches next week, where the winner will proceed into top 8. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
PNG Boxing Federation held its national selection trials in Port Moresby this week. A total of 42 fighters fearlessly took to the ring to go head-to-head for a spot in the selection team. Godwin Eki with the details.
With 16 sports up for grabs, former and current boxers gave it a shot in what was seen to be a fearlessly contested fight between fighters. With 10 sports for men and 6 for women, it was clear that the fighters wanted to be in the trial team and finally to top 16. In the men's events, fighters came from as far as Abau, Rigo and other central districts. The federation, who has eyed its train-on squad, will take its best top 16 fighters, comprising of 10 men and 6 women, to this year's Pacific Games. But as time progresses, other competitions for selection purposes will also be considered, as training will be an integral part for the final team to Samoa. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Don't go anywhere, we'll have more of Trukai Sports after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Turning abroad now, the Socceroos Asian Cup title defence is over after a 1-0 loss to the host nation, the United Arab Emirates, in the quarterfinals. A defensive blunder gave the UAE its goal in the second half.
It was a moment that will haunt the Socceroos and Milos Deganek long after this tournament is over.
Playing in Ali Madkoots around Matty Ryan, and the United Arab Emirates have their first ever goal against Australia.
Deganek says there's contact there. Did that put him off? He's looking for help. It's not forthcoming at this point, and Madkoot helps himself.
Yeah, it's very difficult. This situation's very hard. Obviously, cost us the whole tournament.
The best chances in the first half had been created by the UAE.
The UAE denied by Matty Ryan.
The Socceroos dominated possession, but it wasn't reflected on the scoreboard.
That was bound for the top corner.
The visitors thought they'd opened the scoring through Apostolos Yanu, but the officials thought otherwise.
He's offside there, Matthew Leckie.
4 minutes later, the UAE struck the killer blow.
Have to learn and grow from this. I'm not asking for any sympathy or empathy. That's football, that's life.
I think he's been one of our more solid players over the last few months, and you know, he's got a massive future ahead of him. He's extraordinarily talented.
Defending champion Australia wasn't the only big name bundled out of the tournament. South Korea had a surprise 1-0 loss to Qatar.
It's a day of mourning for many First Australians people around Australia, but today Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders from around Queensland met to celebrate culture through sport.
Rugby league players from around Queensland have braved the heat to come out for the annual Waba-Wangaratta Rugby League Carnival. With 8 women's and 16 men's teams, this year recorded the highest number of women's registrations the carnival has ever seen. Players and supporters have come all the way from Charleville and Townsville to compete. This morning, a traditional smoking ceremony and cultural gift exchange were part of the opening of the weekend-long competition. In Durrumbal language, Waba means one and Wangaratta means together. So the carnival is all-inclusive. The idea of the event is to celebrate Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander culture through sport. It's been running for more than 10 years, organised through local Indigenous Community Centre, Durrumbal. Organisers of the carnival say the placement of it on January 26 isn't a protest against Australia Day. Rather, they chose it for the weather and the fact that the long weekend gave players and supporters time to travel.
Another sporting series that's growing at the moment is Formula E, momentum building behind the 5th season of the electric racing series, with new teams and drivers from the world of Formula One getting on board. But there are still many intriguing questions that remain up in the air, including, will Formula E ever join forces with Formula One?
The all-electric motorsport Formula E crowned a new champion last summer on the streets of New York.
A stunning 4th season of ABB Formula E comes to an end with Jean-Eric Vergne, the champion, winning.
Now, at the early stages of Season 5, Jean-Eric Vergne thinks that Formula E might one day join forces with Formula One.
It would be good that Formula One and Formula E merge. And I think the best thing that would ever happen to both championships would be to have one complete championship, where half the season would be in Formula One cars and the other half of the season would be in Formula E cars.
The Formula E pit lane's divided in its reaction to Vergne's idea.
No, that's not going to happen. I think it's two different worlds. Formula E is electric, is street racing, and Formula One is proper circuits all around the world and the fastest cars possible.
I think it's not impossible. I think the world is changing so quick, and I think the electric cars is growing massively.
I see in the future, let's say long term, a very, very low probability that combustion racing would be allowed by some countries, so especially developed countries.
To me, the manufacturers will have to keep in line with whatever they produce, and if in 10-15 years they produce only electric vehicles, and I find it hard to see them spending money on a technology that's completely different than what they sell.
I think Formula One needs to decide where its future is at. Formula E obviously has a clear path. Where Formula One goes, we don't know yet.
And that ends Trukai Sports for this evening. We go for a break. When we come back, the weather details for the next 24 hours. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast. For the next 24 hours, we begin in the southern region, fine becoming cloudy for Port Moresby, cloudy weather in Daru, Kerma and Alota, mostly fine in Popondetta. To the Momasa region, cloudy and showers in Leh, rain and showers in Wau, cloudy rain and showers in Madang, Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, cloudy with showers in Lorengau and Kavieng, cloudy weather in Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe, cloudy weather and some showers in Buka. And in the Highlands region, all the major centres Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabek can expect cloudy weather over the next 24 hours with morning fog developing.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's a new sport and weather for today, Saturday, the 26th of January 2019. On behalf of the MTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.